This is the flag of China. Well, actually, it's only one of the flags of China because this flag is also used, but just for the island of Taiwan or the Republic of China. However, this flag was once used on the mainland as well as on the island of Taiwan. So in this video, I want to ask the question that logically comes to mind from this, which is, are the Taiwanese island Chinese or are the Chinese mainland Taiwanese? Of course, that's not really what I'm going to be asking, and oh, damn. I mean, I guess YouTube is already banned in China, so let's just roll the credits and get on with it. So in this video, I want to look at why did the flag of China change from the one which had been and is now the flag of the Republic of China to this new red flag, as well as looking at the other flag history there. So to begin with, we're going to look at the Qing Dynasty, which ruled China from the end of the 17th century, and they only actually came about making a flag in 1862, but this is because of events 2 years earlier in 1860, at which time China was embroiled in the First Opium War with the British and the French. Now, the British and the French both have clear flags. We all know what the British and French flags look like, and they were similar in that time as well. However, for the Chinese who were fighting against them, they didn't have one flag, and there were just lots of different flags instead. And so in 1862 they decided to adopt a flag, and the first flag that they adopted was this one. Now, the dragon on there is the five-clawed dragon, and it has multiple significance. Now, the dragon flag was already around before it was adopted as the first national flag of the Qing Dynasty. It's around, you can see it here on this Tibetan chocolate advertisement. And in 1889, actually, instead of having this triangular banner, they changed and turned it into a rectangular banner, just like a lot of the European nations had at the time as well. Now, the yellow dragon, or the five-clawed dragon, is often associated with the emperor. The emperor is seen as an embodiment of this in China. And the colour yellow actually sometimes was banned from use outside of imperial circles because it was seen as a royal colour again, and that's why the background is yellow. Now, this ball that's sometimes seen, it's sometimes called the sun or a ball, is actually a pearl, because a pearl is associated with the three-legged crow, which is a very important creature in a lot of Asian mythologies. In 1912, a series of rebellions swept through China, known collectively as the Xinhai Rebellions, and one of the commanders of the rebellion, Lu Haodong, he actually created this design, which is now the flag of the party called the Kuomintang, who will also be important later on in the story. But it's essentially a rising sun flag on a blue background, and this may look familiar, and there's a reason for that. And this is because there was another commander of a different rebel group who was called Sun Yat-sen, and he designed this flag. And of course, he's using the same flag as part of a canton, but then on a red background. And this is of course the flag of Taiwan now, and was the flag of mainland China as well. Now, a lot of different regions rebelled at the same time in the Xinhai Rebellions. Now, in the rebellion that essentially started off the whole Xinhai revolution, there was another one in 1911, the year before, called the Wuchang Rebellion. And during this rebellion, there were several different armies in different parts of China. So in the south, you had army groups that were using this blue flag that was later adopted by the Kuomintang. Whereas in the city of Wuhan, in the province there, you actually had this red flag with 18 gold stars being used for the independent government in Hubei. Then in the north, near Shanghai, you also had the five colours flag, or the five races flag. Now, this flag is often called the five races flag, and this is because each of the colours is meant to represent one of the larger ethnic groups that are present in China. So red is for the Han, the yellow is for the Manchu, the blue is for the Mongol, the white is for the Hui, and the black is for the Tibetan. Now, you might remember that in my video about why there are two Mongolias, I mentioned this whole thing about the blue Mongols and that being an important colour there. Yellow, again, is relating to the background of the Qing Dynasty, because the Qing were originally Manchu. That's why yellow was an important colour to them as well. So you can see things that are important there on this flag. When the new republic was finally established, they actually used all three of these flags in different capacities. They chose the five races flag as the national flag, the flag of the government, whereas the 18-point golden star from Wuhan they actually used for the army, and they used Sun Yat-sen's design of the modern flag of Taiwan and the flag with the Kuomintang sun and on the red earth background as the naval canton. However, Sun Yat-sen was unhappy with the choice of the Five Races flag as the national flag because he thought that it imposed an ethnic hierarchy, just as the Qing Dynasty had done. For example, putting the Han Chinese at the top and then other groups lower down. And he was against this because he thought it's a new republic, we need to be democratic and fair, or, going towards democratic and fair. So he always continued to advocate for the use of his own design. Even when he was in exile, like in 1917 for example, and at the completion of the Northern Expedition in 1928, when he was successful in overthrowing the more dictatorial regimes that had sprung up in China, they did indeed use this flag as their own, although the Five Races flag did continue to be used in non-official capacity as well. That is until the Second World War, which of course in China starts earlier than in Europe. In China it starts with the Second Sino-Japanese War, already in the mid-1930s, when you get the invasion of Manchuria, the northern part of China, and later other parts of China by Japanese forces as well. Now, this flag was actually used by some of the puppet regimes that the Japanese installed, because they actually often do this. In the Second World War, you see it with the Japanese and with the Germans. For example, in the Netherlands, that's why they start to associate this flag, the Prinsenvlag, with the supporters of the Germans there, because they would use older flags with a different history and say, look, we're now using this one to distance themselves from the modern governments. And this is the same in China with the Five Races flag with the Japanese occupation. In 1940, Wang Jingwei was appointed as the head of the collaborationist Chinese government working with the Japanese in Nanjing, and he actually wanted to use the same flag as the nationalists fighting back against the Chinese were using, so with the rising sun in the blue canton and the red earth background. But the Japanese much preferred using the Five Races flag, so in the end the Japanese put forward this proposal, which was to have that flag but then with a yellow banner that read peace, anti-communism and national construction on it. But Wang never really liked this design, and in 1943 they actually abolished this one completely and just used the same flag. So you actually had two governments fighting against each other using exactly the same flag. But then what about the modern Chinese flag? Where does this come from? Well, after the war ends in 1945, the Japanese leave China and the Chinese are back to ruling themselves. But actually there was already a civil war going on before the Second World War started in China between the parties of these two men, Jiang Shung and Mao Zedong. Now these two leaders, one was leading the Communist Party, obviously that's Mao Zedong, he's a very famous general, and the other, known more commonly in English as Chiang Kai-shek, was leading the Nationalist Party. And the two had already been fighting before the Second World War, but at the end of the Second World War, the fighting started once again between these various factions and ideologies within China. Now I feel like I'm going to talk about this conflict, the Chinese Civil War, and the flags that resulted from it in the next video, because of course the communists won this war and that's why we get a flag change. But I think I'll talk about this in another video, because I feel like this one's getting quite long already and I think that warrants its own specific video, so I can really go in depth on that. I would also like to say gai sai to Joey for helping me out with the pronunciations of both the Mandarin and the Cantonese in this video. I hope I did alright in pronouncing those. Let me know in the comments below if you speak either and what you thought of my trying to pronounce them in this one. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. I really appreciate you taking the time to tune in and to look it out. Also a big thank you to the patrons who are supporting me. You know, in times like this with the coronavirus, it's really kind of people to be giving money so that I can keep making these videos, especially when things are tight and when things are uncertain. Also just, you know, look after yourselves, everyone. I really appreciate you all being here and watching my videos, but make sure you look after yourself. If you're feeling ill, make sure people know that you have a support system in place, and look after vulnerable people in your area, in your family, if you can. Alright everyone, so I hope you stay fit and healthy and happy until the next time I join you. This has been The History. There'll be another video about the Chinese flag and various other flags and bits of history as well, both in Europe and outside of Europe, trying to branch out a little bit as well, just for the fun of things, because I have time now. But anyway, I've been Hilbert, and this has been The History. Stay safe, everyone.